Most small decisions don't feel small when your mind is already crowded. They feel heavy, not because they matter, because nothing else is settled. Decision-making gets talked about like it's about clarity. That assumes a quiet mind, a clear surface to look at things properly. That's not the case for a lot of men. The mind is already full. Not just thoughts, unfinished emotional noise, things that were never processed properly, just pushed forward. In that state, even simple choices stop belonging to the present. Just be decisive gets repeated a lot, as if hesitation means you're weak or unsure, as if standing still always means you don't know what you want. That explanation is too clean. Sometimes you know what you want, right there, in the moment. The issue is what comes with that moment. The mind doesn't stay there. It pulls everything in. A small decision. What to say, whether to reply, whether to go out, whether to stay quiet, stops being small. It connects to older things without asking permission. Conversations replayed late at night, messages you regret sending, things you didn't say when you should have, moments you still think about, even if you don't want to. They don't return as memories. They return as weight. That weight sits on whatever you're doing now. The present stops feeling like the present. It turns into a place where unfinished thoughts gather around new choices. That's why it drains you. Not because the decision is difficult, because your mind isn't treating it as one decision. It treats it like a continuation of everything you left open. Even something like replying to a message stops being simple. The mind starts running silent calculations, not logic, emotional memory, how it might land, what happened last time, what you should have said then, what you're trying not to repeat now. None of it feels deliberate. It happens instantly, underneath awareness. That's why it feels like overthinking, but doesn't feel like control. You're not choosing to analyze everything. It's already there. The moment a decision appears, it gets activated. Overthinking gets described like it's just excessive thinking. That's not always accurate. Sometimes it's not thinking. It's unresolved experience resurfacing in real time. So even small decisions carry more than they should. Not importance. History. There's something else underneath it. A quieter layer. The fear that a small choice might expose something about you. Not to others. To yourself. If you respond the wrong way, it feels like it says something about your intelligence, your emotional control, your stability, whether you're actually as put together as you try to appear. So the decision stops being about the situation. It becomes about identity. That's where the fatigue builds. Quietly, without clear reason. The mind isn't just deciding anymore. It's monitoring, correcting, scanning, replaying, predicting, all at once, around something that should have taken seconds. Advice like don't think too much misses the point completely. It assumes thought is isolated, that you can separate it from everything else. But what's happening is accumulation, emotional leftovers, things that were never fully expressed, never fully resolved, never fully understood. They don't disappear. They stay active. Background processes running all the time. Every new decision passes through them. That's why something as small as choosing what to say can feel blocked. Not because you don't know what to say, because too many past versions of you are trying to speak through the same moment. One part wants to be direct. Another part remembers being misunderstood. Another part remembers regret. Another part tries to prevent any of it from happening again. It all happens at once, quietly, without structure. There's a contradiction most people live with, but rarely admit. You want simplicity. You want things to feel light. You want to act without overthinking everything. But your mind has learned something else. Simplicity doesn't feel safe anymore. Because in the past, simple reactions didn't always go well. You spoke too quickly. It was misunderstood. You trusted your instinct. It didn't land right. You acted without thinking. It stayed with you longer than it should have. So now the mind interferes. It adds layers, not to make things harder, to avoid repetition. But protection doesn't feel like protection from the inside. It feels like hesitation, delay, stagnation.
And over time, that becomes the normal state. A mind that never fully clears itself, just keeps adjusting around its own noise. So even the smallest choices start to feel like negotiations, not with reality, with everything you remember about yourself. That's why you can feel drained after doing almost nothing. The action wasn't heavy. The internal process didn't stop. Here's what's usually avoided in how this is described. You're not only reacting to what's happening now, you're reacting to everything you never finished feeling. And until that settles, it keeps attaching itself to things that don't belong to it anymore.
Small decisions don't stay small in a mind that never closes its own loops. They become meeting points between who you are now and everything still left open behind you. And in those moments, it stops being about choosing. It becomes about carrying, until even silence feels like it's still working in the background.